Hey guys, and welcome back to the internet. Sorry I haven't posted very many story videos lately. I just spent a ton of time making this massive video for my second channel, which you should definitely check out, where I basically take a big deep dive look into the whole monetization process of YouTube. But now that I'm back for some stories, let's get started with... Want me to edit my review? Okay, bet. I was going to buy a car from a small used car dealership. We agreed on a price and a day to meet. The morning of, he sold it out from under me right before I was there with no courtesy call or text or anything. I wrote an accurate review reflecting my experiences with the dealership online. A couple days later, he calls and threatens me with a lawsuit, claiming my review was slander. He warned me everyone else that gave a one-star review was sued for slander and had to pay court fees and remove their review. He said if I edited the review, everything would be fine and he wouldn't take me to court. Well, I obliged and edited my review, stating he threatened me over the phone with a lawsuit since I gave him a negative review, and that my review was in fact 100% accurate of my experience. The icing on the cake, I texted him right after I edited the review and said, "Hey man, edited the review as requested, hope there are no hard feelings." I guess he didn't read my edit before replying with, "Thanks man, I appreciate it, no hard feelings." I'll update it if he reads the review and contacts me again. Well, here's an idea. If you don't want any bad reviews, then just don't be a douche. Next we got, entitled Disney Dad puts his foot in his mouth. So this isn't my story, but one from a coworker of mine. Sadly, I've heard many stories that are quite similar to this one, and it kinda makes me lose faith in humanity. I'm thankful that it's never happened to me because I don't think I could have reacted professionally. So at Disney World, we have quite a few Make-A-Wish families. If you're not familiar with Make-A-Wish, it's an organization that grants wishes to very sick children. These kids are often terminally ill, and it breaks my heart every time they come to visit the characters. Everyone in the room gets very emotional. Make-A-Wish families get special treatment in the parks, as they should. These kids usually cannot wait in long lines, so if you have a Make-A-Wish pass, you have a fast pass to everything. For rides, it's easy. Just send the family through the fast pass line. For characters, it can get a bit tricky. We have some characters that meet outside and therefore don't have a fast pass line. There's one queue, and you can see how many people are in front of you since there aren't any twisty queue lines that go through a building. In this case, Make-A-Wish families just come up to the creator attendant, the person that takes care of the character, aka me, and shows us their special pass. We go over to the next family in the regular line, inform them that a Make-A-Wish family is going to cut in front of them, and after they're done, the next family will get their turn. Usually, people are hot and sweaty and tired, but they get it, and they wave me away with a quick, "Oh, it's no problem." Sometimes their kids get a bit frustrated because they don't understand why the Make-A-Wish get to cut in front, but the parents explain that they're doing a good deed by letting a really sick kid go first. Sometimes people get huffy, but I ignore them. They'll be fine to wait another minute. Occasionally, people get upset because they don't know what Make-A-Wish means, but it's oftentimes pretty obvious that the child is sick, so people can put two and two together with context clues. And we can always explain if they still don't get it. But for the most part, American families have heard of Make-A-Wish and know what that means. However, people can still get really mad. I had a friend who was a character attending with Princess Aurora who saw a Make-A-Wish family. They let the next family in line know what was going on, and was shocked to hear the entitled dad's response. "Sorry sir, this Make-A-Wish family is going to go first. Thank you for your patience." "Are you kidding me? We've been waiting forever. This is ridiculous." "Sorry sir." My friend shot him a look and then turned away to focus on the Make-A-Wish family. The dad pouts like a child. "Wow, I wish my kid had a disease so they could cut all the lines," he muttered under his breath, probably louder than he intended to. Everyone froze. Princess Aurora, my friend who was working, the family behind the dad, and the Make-A-Wish family all turned to stare at him. Aurora was pissed and something to the effect of, "Well, that wasn't a very princely thing to say," before turning her attention to the Make-A-Wish little girl. Her mom looked like she was going to cry. My friend barely kept his composure, went right over to the entitled dad and said, "I bet our friend over here would give anything to be in your shoes, don't you think?" The family behind the dad grumbled about him being rude and horrible. The dad knew he had put his foot in his mouth. His daughter was oblivious to the whole thing, thankfully, and she was quietly playing on her Barbie and barely even blinked when she was told that she'd have to wait a bit longer to see Aurora. During their turn, Aurora was cool towards the entitled dad, but great with the daughter. They had a long talk about how a real princess is kind and patient and compassionate towards others. The entitled dad slunk away, and I hope he learned from his behavior. Wow, real smooth. Man, I know places like Disney World and Disneyland are supposed to be like really fun and happy places to spend with your family, but I feel like it can also cause a lot of tension. You have these families that like saved up and try to put everything into this one vacation, they're trying to have the best time possible, but then it kind of turns into a competition of like so many families, like trying to cram into the same place at the same time, and I think it causes people to get a little bit too aggressive. There's actually going to be another story from this guy about Disney World later in this video, so stick around. But next we've got, entitled Mom is furious about Pokemon Go. So the other night I decided to go to a local lake and walk around to play some Pokemon Go. There's dozens of Pokestops around the lake and quite a few gyms too, so it's a prime location to play. Also, I'm 22, and I went with a friend who's 28. It's a quiet night, not a whole lot of people walking around. We approach a park and a shelter area, and notice there's a raid about to start, so we sit at the shelter area to play it. I'm not sure how to explain this if you're unfamiliar with the game. We happen to be the only people there, and across the trail was a park with a few kids, and a mom barely paying attention. We're sitting there waiting for the raid to start for about 5 minutes, when his mom comes over to us. She says, "Can I ask you what you're doing here?" I was like, "We're playing Pokemon Go, why?" "Well, it's pretty creepy you two adults are just sitting here near the park. You need to leave." It's like, "What? We're minding our own business, maybe you should too." "Well, you're making me and my children uncomfortable. I don't know what that Pokemon Go is, but it sounds like an excuse to watch my kids." I say, "Well, we'll only be here for 10 more minutes, lady. We aren't watching your kids." She says, "Ridiculous." She then storms back over to the park and sits on the phone with someone. About 3 minutes later, she grabs her kids and comes over again, yelling at us that now her kids can't enjoy the park because us creeps want to kidnap them. She also explained to her children, who both looked to be younger than 10, that they had to leave because we were going to hurt them. I was baffled and didn't even know what to say. It's a public trail, public park, public shelter, and a lot of days there are dozens of adults playing Pokemon Go. It was so strange. Man, this is like one of those Ask Reddits where it's like, what is something that's okay to do as a kid, but creepy if you're an adult? I'd just say go out, do your own thing, and have fun. Alright, next up we got, mess with the front desk receptionist? Okay, you're banned. So I work for a newspaper as an editor. Most calls come through our front desk and then are transferred to staff members accordingly. Our front desk receptionist is just about the nicest person you'll ever meet, and she has to put up with a metric ton of crap from callers, some of whom are not very nice at all. She rarely complains, but she did this time. So no upfront, it took a lot to get her there. My company owns several weekly newspapers in an East Coast state, and each has an editor. We also have on staff an entertainment editor who handles all entertainment-related press releases for all the weeklies. Due to family obligations, he works from 4 a.m. till 10 a.m. and some hours over the weekend. It just so happened this particular week he was out one day, but due to his hours, it would have appeared to people calling in that he was actually out 2 days. Anyway, a talent manager from the West Coast sent in a press release to the entertainment editor, who, again, was out of the office. When he didn't receive an immediate response, he started emailing and calling both the entertainment editor and myself repeatedly. I should note that he reached out to me because the event was taking place in the community that I cover. I should point out that at this time, I was also out for about a day and a half. Preschool, man, it spreads all the germs. When I got back in, I had several messages from this guy and about 3 emails. Before I can call him back, he calls into the office and starts berating my receptionist, demanding to know why no one was answering, requesting private cell phone numbers, and just being a colossal belligerent a-hole. I happened to walk up to the front desk while he was doing this. The receptionist placed him on hold, almost in tears, and tells me what is going on. I am so fantastically angry at this a-hole. Want to be a douche canoe to me? Fine. But do not ever take out your frustration on me with my receptionist, who does not in any way get paid enough to deal with you. I took the call off hold and identify myself. It's like a freaking light switch being turned off. He practically simpers with swarming graciousness. He wants to know if I'm interested in running the press release he had sent. I firmly explained to him that I would have happily included information about his client in an upcoming edition had he not been belligerent and abrasive with my receptionist. I told him his attitude was unprofessional and that I had no further interest in our conversation. I wished him a good day and hung up the phone. By the time I made it back to my desk, this, creative insult I'm not sure I can say, had already fired off an angry email, berating me, telling me I was unprofessional, whatever, be pissed at me, and then he keeps sending me emails, about 4 in total. I finally told him that I would not be answering any of his emails, and for someone whose job it is to promote his clients to the best of his ability, he really needed to learn when to shut his mouth. I know, not my finest moment. And then he sent another belligerent email. So I banned him. No one in my company will ever publish a press release he sends in. Each time he sends one in, we reach out to his client and explain that we no longer work with him, and tell them why. We do tell the clients that they can reach out to us personally, and we will be happy to work with them. But this dude, screw him. Don't mess with my receptionist, a-hole. You know, I don't really understand how anyone can have professional success when they're this short-tempered and hard to work with. And now on to the final story before the question of the day, called Entitled Parents Lose Their Minds Over Blind Marshmallow. So bear with me here, the title will make sense. Y'all seem to like my last story about the entitled Disney World guests, so strap in for round 2. One day I was working with Bimax. He's a squishy, lovable robot. There's a performer inside the costume, of course, who often has problems. In short, the costume is a pain and malfunctions quite a bit. I understand how this can be an inconvenience to guests, but I digress. Anyways, on that day, Baymax had a super short line around 4 p.m. There were no more than 5 or 6 families in line over a period of about an hour. So when Baymax gave me the distress signal, I was concerned for him, but at least relieved that I wouldn't be disappointing people who had waited for hours to see him. I informed the line that Baymax needed to recharge his batteries immediately, and he'd be gone for 20 minutes at the very most. I told them they were welcome to wait if they'd like. Anyways, 4 of the families in line shrugged their shoulders, said they'd come back later, and left. The family who was next in line was furious. The parents ranted about how they were next to meet Baymax, and that they wasted all the time waiting to meet him, and that I could possibly keep them from getting just a quick picture. Entitled Mom and Dad tried to shove their kid past me. Keep in mind that I have no idea what's wrong with Baymax. He could be hurt, or sick, or something simply might be poking him in an uncomfortable way. I always treat distress signals as if they're life or death, because I have no idea what's going on. I stepped in front of the family, blocking them from Baymax while opening the door for Baymax to get back to the break room. I'm sorry folks, Baymax needs to recharge his batteries. It'll be 20 minutes max. You're welcome to wait. The entitled mom goes off on me, saying that this is ridiculous treatment for a paying customer, and that she's going to go straight to the front of the park to lodge a complaint. I'm not supposed to tell guests anything that's not magical. When a character distresses, I make up a story relating to their movie to explain why they're leaving. However, sometimes I break those rules when it's an adult I'm trying to reason with. I lowered my voice and turned away from the woman's young son, who was kind of staring off into the distance, not bothered at all by the fact that Baymax had to leave, and said, "Ma'am, there's something wrong with Baymax. He might be hurt and I need to check on him." You know, trying to appeal to her human decency. But no, she still grabs her kid and tries to shove him at Baymax. Baymax smacks into me, hard. I move in between the child and Baymax. It's clear to me that the camera that Baymax uses to see has cut out, and he's blind. He's a big, blind marshmallow that will squash kids by accident and probably hurt himself in the process if I don't get him inside. I eventually was able to guide the blind marshmallow through the door while fending off entitled parents. Baymax's camera was fixed in less than 5 minutes, and he was back out meeting guests in a jiff. Entitled Mom and Dad come back shortly after Baymax returned, screaming about how I said it was going to be 20 minutes, and demanding that I let them cut the line, which had 2 families in it. I refused, and told them that they could either wait 2 minutes it would take in line, or they could leave. The entitled mom made a big show about writing down my name. I told her to say hi to my supervisor for me, and have the most magical day ever. I like how they're complaining. They're like, "You said it would take 20 minutes. It's like, well, I mean, you could just sit around for 15 minutes if you really want. I mean, heck, you could just keep going through the line over and over again. But it's time to move on to our question of the day, which is, what is the worst reason someone has used to reject you? So finally something I can answer. I had a girl reject me saying, "I can't date you because what if we go on a date to somewhere with stairs?" I'm in a wheelchair. Yeah, I think this is just an example of someone trying to come across nice, but they actually just sound really stupid. I got dumped by my girlfriend of 9 months over somewhere I had been. I was doing a month-long medical course with the Army, and right at the end they took us into this creepy as F old hospital for a tour. Someone asked if we could see the morgue, so they took us down for a tour. It was like something out of a horror movie. Long dark corridor, old equipment of indeterminate function, stainless steel autopsy tables, etc. But there were no dead bodies or anything. I get home from the course, tell my lady, and she freaks out about it. She went and stayed with her mom that night, and the next day she came back with her entire family to pick up her stuff. She would not come into the house, and whenever I came to the door to try and talk to her, she would shriek and hide her face. 3 years later I bumped into her at a supermarket, and she lost her crap, then ran out the door as fast as her legs could carry her. Man, some people are just crazy. That's all I can really say. I got the privilege of being the see if I could do this relationship after a divorce. After doing the whole meet the family, talk about moving in, blah blah blah, go out to dinner one night, they dropped the effect of, "Thanks for giving me the confidence to know that I can put myself out there again." As they explained it, they just needed to know if they could even go through the motions of a relationship. Wow, and they couldn't just accept the relationship that they had, they were just testing themselves out? But I mean, honestly, at least most of these people are getting an actual answer as to why they're being rejected. Usually when I'm talking to a girl, they'll just stop responding. So at this point, if I go like 3 days without hearing from them, I'm just like, well, that was fun while it lasted. She was really into fat dudes, and I was only kind of fat. You know, I don't really understand the whole thing about specifically wanting a fat partner, but I mean, everybody's kind of into their own weird thing. But hey, I'd rather get rejected for not being fat enough than for being too fat. A guy who brought me to a coffee shop under the guise of a date, and broke it off after we just sat there for an hour talking about a movie he suggested I watch, and told me he didn't think I could handle his anxiety. Turns out his anxiety was really another girl he was dating at the same time as me. I'd have just preferred the truth. What? This story doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So this guy is dating a girl, and he goes and asks out another girl, they sit on a date for an hour, and then he tells her, "You probably won't like me because I already have a girlfriend." Like, am I missing something here? What was the point of doing that? I have lupus, and the guy said, "I don't want you to die before I do." He then proceeded to go for the crackhead with multiple DUIs. You know, it's honestly kind of funny when you're dating somebody and they dump you for just someone who's a completely trashy person, and you're just like, I mean, I'm upset and I want to get revenge, but I feel like you're already doing that for me. Oh well, good luck. My ex would cancel plans at the last minute and explain in great detail it was so that I'd be disappointed, which would make her feel guilty. which would in turn make the guilt a form of self-punishment for disappointing me in the first place. And also so that we wouldn't do the thing she wanted to do, which would make her disappointed by the fact as a further form of self-punishment for causing the disappointment. All of which would mean that I had inflicted negative emotions on her, i.e. the guilt and disappointment, so that she could be angry about the whole thing. Mercifully, that particular relationship didn't last too long. Wow, those are some mental gymnastics going on right there. Well, that's all the answers I pulled from here. I mean, I don't really know what I would call the worst rejection I've ever had. Like I said, most people just ghost me. But, so I once met this girl online. I mean, we lived about 1,000 miles away from each other. So I guess you could say we kind of established this, like, long-distance online relationship for a little while. You know, there was lots of back and forth flirting. We were getting to know each other. We were talking about how excited we were to meet each other. So after about a month of talking, I finally tell her, like, hey, I'm ready to come visit now. You know, thinking she'd be excited. And then she just suddenly changes her mind and says, sorry, I don't think this can work out. We just live too far away, and I don't think a long-distance relationship would work. And I'm just like, okay, what were you expecting out of this whole thing then? But no amount of me trying to convince her or talk her into wanting to meet up ever worked out. So, we just never ended up meeting, and that was it. Anyways, if you guys have any good rejection stories, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out my new video on my YouTube Analyze channel. It's a pretty good one. So, thanks for watching. Enjoy the cat video.